ever wondered what secrets hide behind Roger Barr's quiet grin on chasing classic cars? To fans, he was the grumpy genius in the corner of the garage, the man who could fix anything with a wrench and a lifetime of knowledge. But behind that tough exterior was a story no one expected. A story of injuries, betrayal, and shocking truths that would forever change his friendship with Wayne Carini. For years, Roger stayed silent. But when he finally spoke up, what he revealed about Wayne wasn't just surprising, it left fans stunned, and it exposed a side of their partnership the cameras never showed. Wayne and I were like brothers for decades, but when I needed him the most, he wasn't there. I never thought he'd turn his back on me, not after everything we went through together. Their story kicks off in the quiet streets of Glastonbury, Connecticut, where a young Wayne Carini first stumbled into the orbit of Roger Barr, a mechanic whose hands worked miracles and whose life was a tapestry of high-octane thrills. Picture Wayne as a wide-eyed kid, barely tall enough to see over a fender, hanging around his dad's body shop, utterly captivated by the parade of exotic machines rolling into Roger's garage just down the road. Ferraris purred with untamed power, Maseratis gleamed like polished jewels, and even humble Saabs shared space with rare Alfa Romeos, creating a playground of automotive wonders that fueled Wayne's dreams. Roger wasn't just any grease-stained mechanic. He was a legend forged in the crucible of real experience. He'd cut his teeth in the US Air Force stationed in Germany, mastering the art of tuning European beasts under the pressure of military precision. Before that, he'd even earned a spot as a backup driver for Porsche's factory racing team, weaving through Europe's tracks with a cool-headed skill that turned heads. Back in the States, he carved out a name as a national champion in Formula V and Formula B racing, outpacing rivals with a blend of guts and know-how that made him a motorsport icon. This wasn't just a job for Roger, it was a life. And his grit and expertise pulled Wayne in like a tractor beam, planting the seeds for a bond that seemed destined to last forever, rooted in a shared love for machines that carried stories of speed, craftsmanship, and history. Years later, that deep connection became the pulsing core of chasing classic cars. The Discovery Channel hit that hooked car lovers for 16 seasons with its thrilling mix of treasure hunts and meticulous restorations. Wayne took center stage as the slick dealmaker, crisscrossing the country to unearth forgotten gems, barn-find Porsches, dusty Jaguars, or rare, Duesenberg-sealing deals with a charisma that made every negotiation feel like a high-stakes adventure. But Roger? He was the quiet genius in the shadows, the grizzled master who could coax a seized engine back to life with a flick of his wrench and a no-nonsense attitude that won hearts without trying. Their banter wasn't some scripted television gimmick. It flowed naturally from decades of shared grease, late-night garage talks, and a mutual obsession with preserving automotive history. Fans couldn't get enough their dynamic-turned episodes into cozy hangouts with lifelong pals, making viewers feel like they were part of the crew. Wayne himself admitted in a blog post that fans would swarm him at car shows, but their first question was always, "Where's Roger?" Proof that the mechanic's grumpy charm and unmatched skill often stole the spotlight. That chemistry didn't just elevate the show, it skyrocketed Wayne's profile, turning F40 Motorsports into a household name and building a brand worth millions. Yet, beneath the glossy surface, Roger's role remained strikingly humble. He punched the clock as a shop hand, earning a standard mechanic's wage with no extra coin for the on-camera magic that made him a fan-favorite legend. This quiet disparity, unnoticed by most viewers at the time, would later cast a long shadow over their story, hinting at tensions simmering just out of sight. Then, out of nowhere, after season 14, Roger vanished from the screen like a ghost, leaving fans stunned and grasping for answers. No heartfelt farewell episode, no press release from the network, not even a whisper from the show's social media, just a gaping hole where the master mechanic used to stand, tinkering away. Viewers paused their streams, bewildered by the empty garage bay, wondering if they'd missed a memo. Online forums like Pelican Parts and Grassroots Motorsports lit up with theories. Had Roger, now in his 80s, decided to hang up his tools for a well-earned retirement after decades of turning wrenches? Or was something darker at play? A sudden health crisis kept hush-hush, or maybe a behind-the-scenes clash nobody was talking about? The deafening silence from Wayne, the Discovery Channel, and the entire Chasing Classic Cars team only fueled the speculation, turning Roger's absence into a full-blown mystery that gnawed at loyal fans. For a show that thrived on its warm, family-like vibe where every episode felt like a visit to a tight-knit crew, this abrupt disappearance hit like a betrayal. The lack of closure eroded the trust viewers had built over years, making the show's polished image feel suddenly hollow, as if a key piece of its soul had been ripped out without explanation. What nobody could have predicted was the nightmare that set this unraveling in motion, a brutal accident at F40 Motorsports that shattered Roger's leg and upended his world in an instant. One misstep amid the chaos of the shop, and he was suddenly grappling with a vicious infection that landed him in the hospital, fighting to save his mobility and his way of life. For a man who'd spent decades on his feet, darting between car lifts and racetracks with relentless energy, this was a devastating blow that struck at his very identity. Yet Roger's spirit refused to break. He clawed his way back to the shop for grueling 4-hour shifts, pushing through pain that would have sidelined most, his work ethic a testament to a lifetime of resilience. But the injury lingered like a stubborn shadow, with doctors delivering grim news. Both knees needed replacing, a major surgery promising months of recovery and uncertainty. This wasn't just a physical battle, it was an emotional and financial gauntlet, testing every ounce of Roger's strength as the garage life he'd built his identity around began to slip through his fingers, leaving him to face an uncertain future. Here's where the story turns raw and gut-wrenching. Despite all those years lighting up television screens with his expertise, Roger never pocketed a single extra dollar for his chasing classic cars fame. The show had catapulted Wayne's brand to dizzying heights, with estimates pegging his net worth north of $20 million, fueled by the show's success and his growing empire of car ventures. Yet Roger, the guy whose hands brought those on-screen miracles to life, was paid only his standard mechanic's salary at F40 Motorsports. Nothing for the charisma and skill that made him a viewer magnet. Facing a towering stack of medical bills from his surgeries and hospital stays, Roger stood alone against a financial storm, armed only with his modest wages in a fight that felt brutally unfair. This stark contrast painted a harsh reality. One partner basking in the glow of fame and fortune, the other left scraping by after pouring his heart into a show that reaped millions. The inequity wasn't just a footnote, it became a glaring wound, exposing the often hidden cost of television stardom and raising questions about fairness in a partnership that seemed so solid on screen. When word of Roger's plight reached his circle and beyond, the response was pure heart. A group of friends and fans launched a crowdfunding campaign called Friends of Roger Barr to help him weather the storm. Donations flooded in from across the globe, hitting nearly $30,000, a lifeline that eased the crushing burden of his medical costs and gave him room to breathe. It was a moving show of gratitude for a mechanic whose quiet brilliance had touched so many lives through their screens, a testament to the love he'd earned without ever chasing the spotlight. But the campaign's very existence carried a bitter edge, shining a spotlight on the absence of support from Wayne or the show's producers. Why did it fall to strangers on the internet to prop up a man who'd been central to a multi-million-dollar franchise? The fundraiser became both a beacon of hope and a silent rebuke, underscoring a failure of loyalty from the empire Roger had helped build, and leaving fans wondering how such a gap could exist between those who shared the same garage. As Roger braced for the long road of recovery, slogging through painful rehab sessions, the final blow landed like a sledgehammer. A cold formal notice arrived, severing his ties with F40 Motorsports for good. No sit down with Wayne, no nod to the decades they'd shared since Wayne was a kid idolizing Roger's garage wizardry, just a sterile letter or email that ended it all in one fell swoop. The hurt cut deeper when Roger tried to retrieve his personal tools, the well-worn instruments of his trade, only to face resistance that forced him to lawyer up just to get what was rightfully his. It was a stark betrayal, transforming a bond forged in grease and trust into a soulless transaction, as if their history could be reduced to paperwork. Roger later spoke openly about the pain, the sting of feeling cast aside at his lowest point, abandoned by a friend and employer when he was drowning in medical struggles and uncertainty. That sense of isolation, after a lifetime of shared passion, turned their story from a professional split into something far more personal and raw. Meanwhile, Wayne kept his public face polished, tossing out kind words in interviews, calling Roger's contributions invaluable, and professing deep respect for the man he'd known since childhood. On the surface, it was diplomatic and warm, but dig deeper, and his silence on the hard questions spoke volumes. He never addressed why Roger got no television pay, why fans had to step in with a GoFundMe, or why their decades-long friendship ended with a curt letter. His empire, meanwhile, roared on F40 Motorsports humming, his high-end collision shop Continental Auto thriving, and his personal restoration outfit Carini Carrozzeria turning heads. Add to that new ventures like the Chase magazine, a podcast, and rumors of fresh television deals, and Wayne's world was one of unchecked momentum. The contrast couldn't be sharper. One man scaling new heights, the other piecing his life back together after being left behind. Wayne's careful words seemed like a shield, protecting his image while sidestepping the messy truths that fans demanded answers for. But then came a twist that turned the saga inside out, shifting it from a workplace dispute to a deeply personal wound. Rumors surfaced that Wayne, in a tearful moment, accused Roger of brushing off his youngest daughter, Kimberly, who lives with autism, a charge that hit Wayne at his core. As a devoted father who transformed his daughter's diagnosis into a lifelong mission, Wayne poured his heart into autism, advocacy, organizing charity car events for groups like Autism Speaks, and setting up trusts to support families like his. Kimberly was his world, and any slight against her, real or perceived, would be a dagger to a man who holds family above all else. If true, this accusation could explain the icy silence, the impersonal firing, and the unyielding rift. It wasn't just business, but a betrayal that cut to Wayne's soul. The claim muddied the waters, splitting fans into camps. Was Roger the wronged craftsman discarded by a callous television star, or was Wayne a protective dad reacting to an unforgivable slight? The truth, likely tangled somewhere in the middle, turned their fallout into a messy emotional standoff, with both sides nursing wounds too raw to heal. Roger, though, didn't let the drama define him. After the surgeries, the firing, and the public fallout, he picked himself up and found a new home at the Paddock Car Restorations in New Britain, Connecticut, a shop dedicated to vintage cars that fit his talons like a perfectly tuned engine. Walking through those doors, he called it heaven, the happiest workplace he'd ever known, a stark contrast to the high-stakes chaos of television life. The owner, Michael Donnelly, hailed Roger as a walking encyclopedia of classic cars, and the crew welcomed him with the respect his decades of mastery deserved. Free from the cameras and politics, Roger rediscovered the pure joy of his craft, mentoring younger mechanics and breathing life into old machines with the same passion he'd always had. It was a full circle moment, proving his worth was never tied to fame or his old partner, but to the skill in his hands and the fire in his spirit that no setback could extinguish. Now at 89, Roger's been opening up in recent interviews, stirring the pot with hints of deeper tensions like Wayne's possible envy over Roger's fanbase stealing the spotlight. Online forums buzz with fresh debates, from Reddit threads to grassroots motorsports posts, with fans speculating about blocked workers' comp claims or hidden financial disputes that never saw daylight. These whispers keep the saga alive, painting a picture of a partnership strained not just by circumstance, but by egos clashing under fame's weight. Roger, meanwhile, stays above the fray, content at the paddock, surrounded by peers who value him for his craft, not his screen time. In the quiet hum of the garage, unanswered questions linger like exhaust fumes. Did the glare of fame twist a genuine friendship into something toxic, or are there deeper secrets still buried, waiting to surface? Their roads have diverged sharply, Wayne chasing ever bigger waves in the car world with new ventures and a growing legacy, Roger finding peace in a low-key shop where respect comes without strings. It's a tale that leaves you pondering whether time will mend the fracture or merely conceal more layers of truth, ready to peel back with the next revelation. What hidden spark might reignite this story, forcing both men to face the past they've left in the dust?